Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
Welcome to Valley Talk. I'm Dave Adams, and glad to have you with us today. We have two parts on the show today. We were able to get Kate Porsche, who is the Economic Development Director, newly selected by the City of Albany, here in just a moment. She's on the phone right now, and thank you for being with us on Valley Talk today, Kate.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Well, so we're going to be talking about economic development, where we are going forward in the City of Albany, why the city decided to fill the position now, and all the different aspects of that particular story. Now, for the last, I would say, 45 minutes of the show, we're going to be talking to Gary Springer of Starker Forest. Starting today, they'll have their first summer tour of their private forests here in the Mid-Willamette Valley, something that KGAL Radio is helping to promote. And we view it as a real good opportunity for you to get out into the forests, ask some, they have no problem with you asking some very direct, pointed questions. I've heard about this in news articles about forestry, about forest health. And sometimes, folks, when you hear about issues, charged issues, emotional issues like clear cutting and so on and so forth, you hear a lot of talk show hosts that have an agenda and want to push their particular agenda for whatever reason. The nice thing about the Starker Forest Tours that we like is you get out there with a forester who grows trees, who knows how to do it, who knows the science behind it, and he'll answer your questions. So it's a great opportunity for you to get out there and get some direct answers. And again, they have no problem for you asking very pointed questions. Like, I heard clear cutting's a bad idea. Why do you do it? And Dick Powell will be, I guess, leading the tour next week, and he'll be able to answer those questions. So that's coming up on the last half of the show. Gary Springer is in our studios today, and he was on the tour with us when we went last year. We decided as a radio station to partner with Starker Forest and promote this because we think it's a great opportunity for you to get out there and get your questions answered, which is what we want to do with this program, Valley Talk, on KGAL. For the first section of the show, we are talking to Kate Porsche, the new Economic Development Director for the City of Albany. Kate's on the phone. Welcome to Valley Talk.
Thanks so much, Dave.
And congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you. Thank you. Super exciting.
Now, this position has been vacant for a while since the passing away of the person who held the post previous. How long has the position been vacant? Why did the city decide to fill it now?
Right. So my predecessor was Dick Ebert, who was well respected and highly regarded in our community. He's actually the person who had hired me, and he unfortunately passed away in early 2008. So the position's been vacant now for over 5 years. In that time, Wes Harris, our city manager, has been stepping in to work with local businesses, and I've done a little bit of the economic development work here and there. However, I could help out in addition to my urban renewal work. But I think the sense was that with 5 years of having the position vacant, that the timing was good to bring someone into that role, and that economic development is a priority of the City of Albany and our City Council as well. So having somebody that can be out in the community and sort of the liaison for businesses in our community to the city.
Now, you say the timing is good. Why is that?
Well, I think from my perspective, at least, we're hopefully coming out of this recession. It's been tough times for lots of folks and businesses as well, and so we have an opportunity here to now work and continue to cultivate relationships with businesses and hopefully help them grow and see our local businesses stay here in Albany and expand and see about landing new businesses and more jobs for our community.
What signs are you seeing and hearing to make you feel that we're coming out of the recession?
Well, I would say some of the signs I've begun to see are, the housing starts are improving, construction of new houses, houses that are on the market, some local businesses that are thinking finally sort of about moving or expanding, but we've still got a fair amount of challenges ahead of us. We've got opportunities to help our local businesses grow and try and get folks up and going out of this what's been a kind of a tough time.
Now, an economic development is, I think, a two-phased approach where you try to improve and expand existing business and then encourage new business to come to the community.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, too. I think a lot of folks think of economic development and they think of it as maybe the old term of smokestack chasing and trying to, track down these large corporate users to come to your community. And that is a small part of it. The state of Oregon helps us with sending along leads. And our partners at Amadec, John Pascone, does a great job of working with the state on those leads. But a really big part of economic development is cultivating and fostering your businesses that already are here, helping them to expand, helping them to be successful in the community that they've already chosen to be in. And that's where I'm hoping that as almost a liaison or an ombudsman, as someone had called me, for a city, that I can help shepherd these businesses through the process of the city to help them have a successful interaction and help them be successful and profitable in our community, which is good for everybody.
And why have a specific person in that role, and what do you bring to the table to allow that to happen?
Sure. So I think, Wes has done a great job in fitting it in and all the other duties that he does as city manager in the past 5 years. And the sense I've gotten is that the idea of having a specific person in this role means that for us, the economic development director then is the face in the community. I become the liaison, the link between a number of our great partner organizations, such as the Chamber of Commerce, Amadec, the Council of Governments, or the Small Business Development Center out at LBCC. And so these folks, and then as well as our small, medium, and large businesses, know that if they are thinking about expanding, or if they are encountering a challenge or a problem, or if there's an opportunity for them, that they've got sort of a single point of contact at the city, and that I'm here to help act as that liaison and shepherd their project through the process and eliminate barriers.
As far as shovel-ready land in the city of Albany, let's say you've got a manufacturer that wants to come in, or a large retail person, do you have large tracts of shovel-ready land available turnkey in Albany?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm working on getting up to speed on that. There's been a lot of great work that's been done from the Council of Governments and Amadec, and some folks from the city have been involved in that too, in terms of getting some of our commercial and industrial lands shovel-ready. Some of those have wetland mitigation issues, and so to your point, though, what we're trying to do, what that group's been doing, and now what I'll be getting up to speed on doing as well, is what do we do? The idea behind shovel-ready is let's eliminate barriers now. Let's set the table so this parcel of land is marketable, it's ready to go, and it sends the message that Albany is ready to receive these commercial, these industrial, these manufacturer users on these sites. It makes them much more appealing.
What kind of businesses are you say, one of the things you do is smokestack chasing. You go out there, and another term is headhunters. But you go out there and you try to bring or encourage businesses to come to Albany. Are you looking for high tech? Are you looking for manufacturers? What would you like to do in a perfect situation to bring the business? Is there a target audience of types of industry you're looking to bring into town?
Well, I think, maybe every economic developer would have the same answer to this question. I think most folks are looking for good paying, family wage, clean jobs for a community. So these are jobs that people can then afford to live and work and spend and enjoy the community and be here, and jobs that don't negatively impact the environment, jobs that take a skilled labor force and call upon, folks that are coming out of our great institutions like our surrounding universities and our community college, as well as some of the trade programs. So that, I think, maybe that's what everybody would say, but those would be the types of jobs that we would be hoping for if folks are thinking about coming to Albany. Now, again, I think that's just a small part of it, and there's so many excellent small, medium, and large businesses that are already here in Albany that we're hoping that in this new role, as I begin to reach out to these folks and talk with them, that if they are either running into issues or if they have opportunities for expansion, that we can help them and sort of help shepherd them through those processes.
As you move around in your economic development circles and the networking that you do, what kinds of businesses are looking to expand and come to Oregon? Are we talking about Google's, Facebook's, IT, computer, social media? what's going on out there?
Well, it's been pretty varied. I mean, I think you can see some of the different success stories that have happened over the past handful of years. You saw Google landing in the Dalles. There's been wind manufacturers up in Portland. There's tech companies. There's all sorts. One of the stories that I remember keenly from my time in the private sector. So I've been with the city since 2006. So I'm going on 7 years this fall with the city. But before that, I've been primarily in the private sector in housing, mortgage lending, real estate. And I worked in banking for a while for Wachovia Bank, and they landed a pretty significant call center up in Salem for the bank, which is now Wells Fargo. But that brought about 200 jobs to Salem. And I worked for Wachovia, and I remember the leaders of the corporation telling me that when they were working on their site selection process, which was all over the western United States, they visited a number of cities, and they went from city to city, and they were so impressed with Salem. And the reason why was because when they got to Salem, Salem had all of the community leaders. They had the community college, the city, the county, everybody at the same table, all sending the same message, which was, we want you here. We, are committed to making your project work and getting these jobs in Oregon and being your partner. And I think that's just a great lesson to take away in terms of how, if you are looking for not only these, outside businesses coming to our community, but as well, again, cultivating our local businesses, if we can do a better job of working together and working towards these same goals, both for the city of Albany and regionally, that's good for everybody.
How do we facilitate that working together and coming together for common ground?
Right. So I think a lot of this work has already been underway. The Council of Governments is an organization that works to bring government entities together. And of course, the Chamber is out there representing businesses, and John Pascone's doing a great job at Amedec. And so I think now I'm just sort of added to that mix. I think we've got a great opportunity. My colleague Tom Nelson is the new Economic Development Manager over in Corvallis. And so he and I have known each other for a while. There's more of an interest from the counties, both Lynn and Benton counties, and even Lincoln counties, to look at how we can look at regional projects. And again, just sort of working together, because even if a project lands in Lebanon, that's still good for all of our economy. So how can we work together both for Albany individually and the region? And so in some ways, I think it's a matter of continuing the good work that's being done and making sure the lines of communication are open and seeing how we can be better partners to each other, because we're all working for the same thing in the end.
Let's say I come knocking on your door, and let's say I have a large retail chain, and I employ 75 people. And I'm looking at a city in Oregon, and I'm knocking on the door at the city of Albany. I'm saying, tell me about your city, and why should I come here?
Right.
What would you tell me?
Well, here's what I would tell you. I would direct you to what will be in the next couple months our brand new website, which we're planning to be sort of a clearinghouse for information to direct people. So I would hopefully hand you a packet of nice-looking marketing materials and let you know who the players are, who you can talk to, and how we can help get you in touch with the right people. And I think the message I would send is that Albany has a handful of really great advantages in Oregon. We are centrally located. We're in the hub of the Willamette Valley. We have excellent I-5 as well as rail access in our community. And ours is a very livable community. We have a great school system. We have a delightful historic downtown. We have both the industrial and the, here's the reasons why you should bring your business, but also here's why you would want to yourself live in our community and come here. So I think it's funny, too, when I think about that, the answer to that question, I think back on that my husband and I chose to live in this community. We had both gone to school in Corvallis. We were living in Portland. We wanted to move to a smaller community to start our family. And all those reasons I just listed off to you were the reasons we personally chose to live here and invest here and raise our family here. And I think they're still true today.
Kate Porsche, if people want to contact you, Economic Development Director for the City of Albany, how do they do that?
They can call or email I've got my information is up on the KGAL website. We're working now on developing the new economic development page that'll be up and available for folks. But I'm always happy to take phone calls, answer questions, and be of assistance however I can.
Well, good luck on your new position. Hopefully bringing a new business and industry and jobs to Albany, which I'm sure everybody would love.
Indeed.
And thank you for being with us on Valley Talk today.
Wonderful. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Dave.
Okay, talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Valley Talk. We continue with the second portion of the show, and we're going to switch gears here a little bit. We're going to go out into the woods. Wish we were going out into the woods today. Looks like a little threatening rain out there, but hey, you know, it's always fun out in the forest. Gary Springer is with us with Starker Forest. In fact, today they're going to be having a tour in the Starker Forest forest land, and they're going to be taking the bus out next Wednesday. We'll be talking to Gary about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what you can see and hear and learn about when you go on that tour. We're going to be going on the tour. In fact, I am next Wednesday. Hope to see you there. More about that when we continue on Valley Talk.
Make your garden a little more pink this summer during the second annual Pink Days, now through Saturday at Chenard's Nursery. 15% off the purchase of pink gardening supplies, plants, and flowers. All of their silent auction and raffle will be donated to Project HER, a breast health services program for women in Lynn, Benton, and Lincoln counties. Make your garden a little pinker and show your support for breast cancer awareness now through Saturday at Chenard's Nursery, Philomath Boulevard in Corvallis. More info at chenards.com.
Here's Bob Kahn, owner of Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop.
Because of numerous requests, I am now excited to announce that Mama's Fine Italian is going to be open on Sunday for brunch at 11 a.m. Remember, we offer gluten-free pasta and pizzas with vegetarian and vegan items for those of you who have dietary restrictions. In addition to our regular menu, I want you to enjoy our new breakfast stromboli or skillets with eggs. I want you to sit back and relax with a refreshing mimosa or a nice glass of wine. Mama's is now open for Sunday brunch, so spread the word to all your friends. Reservations are not required, but recommended on the weekends. Call us at 541-451-5050. That's 451-5050. Our menu is also online at mamasfineitalian.com, and I honestly believe that once you visit with us, you'll be back.
Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop on Oak between Main and 2nd, across from the Big Blue Napa Auto Parts building in downtown Lebanon.
Celebrate Japan at the 16th Annual World Beat Festival on June 29th and 30th at Riverfront Park in Salem. World Beat 2013 will feature a non-stop program of international music and dance with special guests from Japan. Experience everything from Japanese cooking lessons to Rakugo Japanese comedy to a kimono fashion show. Headline band Gary Small and the Coyote Brothers will perform Saturday evening, leading into the grand finale with Portland Taiko, Earth, and Essence Fire Dancers from Eugene. Recently named Best Performing Arts Festival, this year's World Beat features non-stop fun for all ages. Feast on the ethnic food and shop for clothing and gifts from distant lands. Join the celebration Saturday from the Small World Parade kickoff to the lion dances of Takafuji Dance Company. On Sunday, cheer on the World Beat Dragon Boat Races. Feel the heartbeat of the world at Salem's Riverfront Park on June 29th and 30th. For more information, visit worldbeatfestival.org. World Beat is sponsored by Fisher Hayes CPAS, Oil Can Henry's, Salem Food for Less, and Mega Foods.
Oregon Sprint Boat Racing returns to Tangent at the Field of Dreams on June 29th and July 27th. The United States Sprint Boat Association promises high-speed motorsport excitement on the water. The Field of Dreams is not only the permanent jet sprint track in Oregon, it's the biggest and longest of the series, and that amounts to pure speed. Gates open at 8 a.m., qualifying starts at 10, eliminations begin at 1. Get ticket information and directions to the Oregon Field of Dreams at OregonJetSprint.com. Jet sprinting, simply awesome.
Your voice of reason in the West is Hugh Hewitt. Weekday afternoons at 3 on Smart Talk 1580.
This next issue is going to be, can be very emotional. We're going to be talking about forest health. I covered Congressman Greg Walden a lot when I was in Bend and other parts in eastern Oregon, and this is an issue that he's very, very passionate about. And you've heard talk show hosts, you've heard people emotionally argue both sides of the healthy forest issue. Spotted owl. There are environmentalists that don't want you to touch the forest because it's beautiful and the birds like it and the spotted owls like it and don't even think about going next to the forest with a chainsaw. And then you've got the other people that want would like to just totally destroy the forest. There has to be a compromise, and there has to be a discussion that we're having as a society where we can get some factual questions asked and answered, and get some of the emotion out of it. Because what can happen in talk radio is people just get fired up about issues, and they leave the science at the door, and they just get emotionally revved up on whatever their agenda is. And folks, let's just go out there. Let's talk to the foresters and say, why do you do this? I have heard XYZ, and these forest tours that Starker Forest is putting on, and I commend the organization for doing this, because you can go out there and you can ask them questions. We're going to talk about clear cutting today. Environmentalists are saying, well, it destroys the spotted owl habitat. There's a reason why they clear cut, and that's one of the issues. In fact, the Starker Forest folks tell us it's interesting the comments they get when they talk about why they do that, and we'll talk about that this morning. Gary Springer is on the show here with Starker Forest. Gary Forester is on the State Board of Forestry, and he's also a public affairs forester with Starker Forest. Gary, thank you for being with us on Valley Talk once again.
Happy to be here today.
Now, the first tour starts today. It's going to be a smaller vehicle. Next Wednesday, the 26th, we're all going to meet at... where do we meet at? It's at the Comfort Inn.
Yeah, the Comfort Inn on 9th Street in Corvallis is the pickup point.
And you register with Visit Corvallis. This tour is free of charge, and then we'll spend the afternoon until about 4:45 going through their private forest, going out among the trees, and they take you on a tour and explain how a forest grows. There's different kinds of trees, and why they do things like clear cutting. Clear cutting is a very emotional issue. And there is a reason why they clear cut, because it does promote healthy forests. Why is that, Gary?
Well, the primary tree species in our forest here in the Coast Range, where our Starker Forest is located, is Douglas fir. And Douglas fir is a very sun-loving and shade-hating species. You can't grow it very well at all in the shade. And so to get a new forest started, when we want to have a wide range of age classes of forest out there, and to start the new forest, you have to open up the canopy, you have to clear cut some to get enough sunlight on the ground to get those young trees that you plant up and growing again.
Now, a good example, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, is every time I drive to Bend, Oregon, I see the remains, the graveyard, if you will, of the B&B complex fire. This was a huge fire, and you can see it as you drive through Santiam Pass. Right. And it's just it's a naked, denuded, dangerous forest. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of standing timber there. Then when it dries out, and if it takes a lightning strike again, it's going to reignite. And for the life of me, I don't understand why they didn't log that after the fire, because you're simply having decaying timber there that's dry and is a fire hazard and is possibly going to reignite once again. I just don't understand it, and that's one of the things that I've talked with Gary about and others about, and there was some legal issues why they didn't do that. The problem I see with the B&B complex fire is you've got, on so many fronts, from a tourism standpoint, as tourists are driving through that area, they're seeing this ugly forest, and it's going to be ugly for a decade or more to come, where if they had been allowed to, excuse me for using the term, clear cut it, go in there, the trees have been burned, it's been a forest-fired forest, cut the timber and let it come up again. I don't understand it.
I think there's another lesson that can be learned if you pay attention when you drive over the pass too. If you look in some of the worst burned areas, in fact, along the highway, before that fire, they thinned the forest, took out dead and dying trees and so forth, largely for safety reasons for the highway, so they wouldn't be falling on the highway. They opened up those stands some, and there's still some of those that even some of the hotter areas of the fire didn't get burned because they were prepared ahead of time. Now, if that whole forest had been prepared like that, it might have been a very different outcome from that fire.
One of the things that is encouraging to me is we're starting to see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but we're starting to see, in the old days, it used to be the environmentalists were here, The foresters were here, and neither of the twain should meet. But I think we're starting to see more coming to the middle. Do you think that's happening?
Yeah, I think that is happening in areas anyway, for sure. I think it's becoming more and more obvious to a wider range of people, especially over in Eastern Oregon, where we've got the drier conditions and overstocked and sickly stands primarily on federal lands, and it's becoming obvious that some management needs to occur to sort of fireproof those stands, keep them from burning so destructively as we've been seeing, and more and more people are realizing in order to do that, in order to manage those forests, we've got to continue to have mills to put wood into, because if you don't have the mills, you don't have anything to produce the income to manage those forests correctly. And there's more cooperation happening, I see.
So logging is not a dirty word. Logging can be used environmentally, economically, and on so many fronts to promote a healthy forest. You can thin the forest out, you can allow more sunlight to get to the trees, and they'll explain this on the tour. So as we talk about the tour, and if you want to go on it, it's free of charge. They do have a soda pop for you, but you might want to take along a candy bar or light lunch. You will leave at 12:45 in the afternoon from Comfort Inn in Corvallis, and then come back at 4:45, the same location. What can people expect on this tour?
They'll see a lot of different things on the tour. There's lots to look at, even just going out to where the tour really starts. And we will on our Wednesday tours. It's a 14-passenger bus, so first come, first served. When you sign up, and it's a very comfortable bus. We've got air conditioning, big windows to look out of.
But nice bus.
And the tour itself is out in the Blodgett area, out on Highway 20, and one of our larger contiguous forested properties is out there. We call it the Tum Tum Tree Farm, and you'll see a wide variety of stand ages, young stands. You'll see a clear cut. You'll see stands that have just been recently thinned, that are maybe 35 years old. We have one of the stops on the tour. It's kind of a rolling tour. We'll have some sort of rolling stops, and then we'll have several places where people can get out and wander around and look a little bit. And the first stop out there is at what we call our demonstration trail, or the Memorial Trail, Starker Memorial Trail. And we have a little loop gravel path, easy to walk, about a quarter mile long. And you'll see young stand, very young trees and older trees that have were just thinned last year. And then you cross a creek and come down through a stand of 60 to 80-year-old trees. Just a beautiful stand that was actually an old farm ground, and it just seeded in naturally when the farmers left. And it's hard to imagine it being farm country because you just see trees everywhere now. But that's one of the stops. And we'll learn a lot about the different species of trees growing there and so forth.
Especially about the different species of trees and simply what goes on. Folks, when you're out there in the forest and you're actually touching a tree and in front of a tree, a lot of questions I've heard last year when I was on the tour where people would say, I've always wondered, and they're looking at a tree or vegetation or ground cover or something, and then they get the questions answered. And it's amazing. You just simply need to take advantage of this. Again, it's free of charge, and it's a real good time to ask those pointed questions. And believe me, they're not afraid for you to ask the pointed question. And the question is, why clear cut? We talked about this a little bit. So if there's something that you want to ask, like the spotted owl habitat or whatever, and Dick Powell. Dick Powell will be leading the tour. You're Gary Springer. He's
Right.
Dick Powell.
Right.
Dick Powell will be leading the tour, and ask anything you want.
Yep, he's worked for Starker Forest for something in the neighborhood of 40 years or nearly that now. So he knows much of the history of Starker Forest and is very, very good at answering and getting into any kind of conversation about the forestry aspects that you want, including we do some research in cooperation with Oregon State University College of Forestry, and we've got some projects that have gone on for quite some time on the tour route that you can talk about as well.
One of the things that we like to do on this show is we call it Mythbusters. There's a show on the Discovery Channel where these guys blow things up, and it's called Mythbusters, and they're just all kinds of things that
Those guys have more fun than should be legal.
Yeah, they do. So we like to do myth busting here on Valley Talk. We don't blow anything up, Charlie. It's okay. We're not going to blow the studio up. Mythbusters, busting myths as far as the forest. What are some myths that you hear people come out there and talk about and say, I've always heard this? What's the story? What's some of the myths?
There's a number of them, I suppose. Clear cuts, just for one, that's just a wasteland, a dead zone. Nothing can live out there. Well, actually what it is a what we call early seral type of habitat. It's an early stage of forest habitat that occurs after a fire or after a clear cut, either one. And there's a lot of critters that really depend on that sort of habitat. You're getting sunlight back on the ground once again. It's been caught up in the canopy until the clear cut, and all sorts of life blooms on that forest floor again. So that sort of dead zone is one of those myths that you hear every once in a while.
And it's really important to get the sunlight down on the forest floor because it promotes a healthy forest floor, correct?
Right.
So what happens in the forest? Let's say you have a huge canopy, you've got old growth forests, and you've got this huge, you basically have the forest floor is totally shaded. Mm-hmm. Then what happens on the forest floor is things start to die because they can't get sun.
Well, there's not nearly the cover or forage there, and so actually, you look at any stage of a forest, and there's some animals that will do very well there because that's what they're sort of, that's their kind of forest they need. But if you don't have any sunlight down on the forest floor, there's not much forage, so you won't find deer and elk there much, and a number of other species as well. So I think the best thing that you can do is kind of across the landscape have a whole variety of forest types and forest ages to provide the most habitat for the widest variety of plants and animals.
Now the trees, the ponderosa pine and other trees like sun. One of the problems you have is if you have a tree that's struggling to survive and is starved for sunlight, that's one of the things a tree needs to thrive. So one of the problems that happens on the forest floor is that you are not promoting the healthy growth of trees. And so you have sickly trees that are starved for sun, trying to come up. Those are trees that are more susceptible to beetle infestation and so on and so forth. So you have these struggling trees trying to come out of the shade, and they get diseased. And so you have these sickly trees, and one of the things that happens with beetle-killed trees is they die. And then you have standing dead timber that is a fire hazard, and you get a lot of debris down in the forest floor, and you've got the kindling for a large blaze.
That's correct.
So it's amazing. Just go out there, take a look, and we would like to have you call Visit Corvallis to sign up for this tour. Again, it's free of charge. Do you have the number for Visit Corvallis?
Actually, I don't believe I do here.
Look it up online. We'll look it up for you here in just a few moments. We're going to take a break right now on Valley Talk here on KGAL More with Gary Springer, Public Affairs Forester with Starker Forest, also a member of the State Board of Forestry, and we're talking about the forest tours that start today. In fact, there's a bus that leaves at, what time does it leave today?
12:45? 1 o'clock.
It leaves at 1 o'clock today at Comfort Inn. It's going to be a smaller vehicle today, but the big van, the big bus, starts next week. We are going to be there. We're going to be taking video. We're going to be interviewing people that go on the tour. If you go next week and you do not want to be interviewed or videoed, we won't video you. But we do want to talk to people and just get their takeaway. What they're learning from the tour, what myths that they have that have been busted, and what they're learning as they go out on the tour and find out about forest health.
But you can't get on the bus unless you have made a reservation through Visit Corvallis, and I did find the number here. It's 541-757-1544.
And one more time?
It's 541-757-1544.
And we'll take a break on Valley Talk and be back with Gary Springer and more in just a moment.
The Osgood File, sponsored by Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. Visit AutoOwners.com. This is Dave Ross, and for Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network. Nature is a constant source of inspiration for engineers, but this particular creature would seem to be an unlikely candidate.
It has the head of a horse, the tail of a serpent, and an insect-like armor of bony plates, but it's really a fish.
More after this from Charlie.
Why turn to a trusted choice agency for your insurance needs? Because a trusted choice insurance agency is an independent advocate that works for your interest, not for any one company. That allows them to find the coverage, the company, and the price to fit your needs. They pledge to treat you as a person, not a policy. When you're looking for a trusted friend in the industry for home, auto, life, or business insurance, turn to Trusted Choice. Visit trustedchoice.com today.
More with less. More with
Sound
less.
familiar?
More
This
with
is what
less.
many IT managers hear every day. The IBM System X3650 M4 Express server with Intel Xeon says do more for less. It's easy to manage, designed to deliver 84% greater performance, and can handle as many workloads as 25 prior generation IBM systems, all at an affordable price. Like how that sounds? Learn more at ibm.com/more for less.
Engineers are always looking for ways to grip things better. And now, a team at the University of California at San Diego is trying to mimic the gripping mechanism of the seahorse. Researcher Joanna McKittrick.
They have a tail that's a prehensile tail, like a monkey's tail. So their tail inspired us because it's a very nice underwater gripping device. And coupled with the armor, we thought this would make a wonderful robotic-inspired flexible gripping device.
The tail shell is built from several plates that slide and pivot against each other, even when under tremendous pressure. The seahorses use it to grip seaweed and anchor themselves. But PhD student Michael Porter thinks the design could be adapted to grip just about anything.
If you were to squeeze it, it's very rigid and hard. So you can compress these about 50% of its width without damaging the central nervous system.
Amazing what 13 million years of evolution can come up with. All the scientists have to do now is copy it using synthetic materials.
It could be used for medical devices. It could be used for bomb disposal, gripping mechanisms.
The humble seahorse, one of nature's engineering marvels. And now, I'm waiting to see if medical science will try to mimic that other unique feature of seahorses, male pregnancy.
The female providing the eggs to the male, who fertilizes them in his pouch and carries the young until they hatch.
Yes, pretty scary, I know. The Osgood File, Dave Ross, on the CBS Radio Network.
My dad, Mark Hemstreet, founded Shiloh Inns over 37 years ago. It was then and remains now a family hospitality company, dedicated to providing our guests with Shiloh's affordable excellence. Hi, I'm Stacy McDonald. Our Shiloh staff takes pride in our clean, comfortable rooms and suites, as well as offering sincere friendliness and outstanding customer service. Shiloh also provides many free amenities, like swimming pools, spas, steam and sauna rooms, and exercise facilities. And of course, affordable excellence means free internet, a complimentary delicious breakfast at most Shiloh Inns, and kids stay free at all Shiloh Inns. So whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, we're ready to provide you with the affordable excellence you deserve. For reservations, call 800-222-2244 or check our website at shilohins.com.
Life is like a game of golf with many turns and twists. So don't miss fun and excitement at the Mid-Valley's premier golf course, Mallard Creek Golf and RV Resort in Lebanon. Easy to find. Restaurant open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner with a beautiful outdoor patio. E-Club membership is free with weekly golf specials and a free round on your birthday. Mallard Creek on Facebook or call General Manager Mark Tunstill, 541-259-GOLF. 259-GOLF. Mallard Creek Golf and RV Resort. Because life is like a game of golf. So tee up.
The news you need, smart talk, and just enough sports. That's what you'll get from News Talk 1580, KGAL.
Welcome back to Valley Talk. Our guest in the studio today, Gary Springer, Public Affairs Forester, and also a member of the State Board of Forestry, works for Starker Forest. Again, their summer tours start today and continue every Wednesday through September.
Right.
Now, also kind of interesting on these tours, 3 times during the summer, July 17th, August 21st, and September 11th. Interesting, they're doing it on 9/11. But 7/17, 8/21, and 9/11. It's a longer tour, and they include the Philomath Georgia Pacific Mill. And tell us about that tour.
Yeah, that one is takes a little longer because of that extra stop. It takes a good, I'm thinking maybe an hour and a half or something like that to tour the mill, and they do a really nice job at the folks at the GP Mill there in Philomath of taking people through and showing them that whole operation. If you've never been through a modern mill to see how they take a log and turn it into lumber and railroad ties and all sorts of things, that's a great one to go on. And so you spend about an hour and a half there, and on those tours, they don't allow children under 12 years of age through the mill tour. So it's got to be people over 12 and over 12, and no open-toed shoes and that sort of things. And they'll give you the safety gear that you need to wear in the mill. And the rest of the tour is usually pretty much the same as our regular tour. So that just adds an extra hour and a half.
The regular tour, you meet at the Comfort Inns, Corvallis, 12:45 p.m. You return at 4:30 p.m. This is every Wednesday except for July 17th, July 21st, and September 11th. Then you meet at 10:30 a.m. And they're asking you, please, on those three tours, the 17th of July, 21st of August, and 9/11, to bring a sack lunch.
Right.
Because you're not going to, they're not going to stop at McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever and eat. So you need to bring something to eat. And they meet at 10:30 a.m. and go till about 4:30 in the afternoon. One of the other myths we want to talk about that is often asked by people that go on these tours is the use of herbicides.
Right. That's herbicides are a tool that we use to control unwanted vegetation, and particularly most always the case is we use them in after clear cutting and when we're planting seedlings to make sure that our seedlings that we want to grow get the most of the sunlight and particularly the soil moisture through the summertime. We will use herbicides, very selective herbicides that won't harm our trees, but will knock back the other things, the grasses and things that are coming in. And the techniques that we use are make sure it's very targeted just on the area that we want sprayed and doesn't drift off. And some of the myths that are out there about that is that people think that we're just poisoning everything, and I've heard people say that we're spraying every acre every year, which is absolutely not the case. We spray a very small percentage of our forest in any given year, and it's just those fresh clear-cut units that we're spraying. And so that's one of the ones that we deal with. People have a hard time accommodating the use of herbicides or pesticides in general. And but what we put on is ounces per acre of these chemicals, not pounds or tons per acre. And they're used over a 50, 60-year rotation. That's what we call from a newly planted seedling that'll grow for 50 or 60 years before we harvest again. We will spray that particular clear-cut unit maybe 2 or 3 times at the most.
What other myths are there out there? Anything come to mind? We talked about clear-cutting and use of herbicides.
Nothing. No, I'm sure there are plenty of them, but nothing just popping up.
One of the things that we also want to talk about is ladder fuels. Now, I've covered a lot of forest fires in my career, and if you've been kind of followed the news coverage of this, when you have a very dense forest, when you have trees that are essentially choking each other out, if you have a forest that hasn't been what the term in the forestry industry is managed, whereas some selective cutting is another term you'll hear out there. And what that means is they simply thin the forest, which is really important because if the trees compete too much for sunlight, for nutrients, then you're going to have some sick trees out there. And sick trees are susceptible to beetle infestation, disease infestation. Then those trees die, and then you have standing dead timber, which is a perfect storm for fires. Now, you were talking about... we were talking about thinning the forest, and there's a term out there as far as overuse of nutrients to allow the forest to grow correctly.
We think of it as carrying capacity, and I think that's a farm term that farmers would understand very thoroughly too. Any given piece of land, no matter how productive it is, only has so much carrying capacity for vegetation, for whether it's trees or what's growing on there, and it's easy to exceed that carrying capacity, and that's what you've just described. When trees start, they'll thin themselves. If you don't thin them, the weak ones will fall behind and die, and so you can get into a very unhealthy situation as a result of that, which we're much more vulnerable to wildfire. But if you know what you're doing and you keep the stand healthy and thinned and growing well, you can avoid that, and you won't exceed that carrying capacity.
One of the things that happens when you have a lot of ladder fuels is a term I used up a moment ago. If you have dead small trees that die and are just diseased, and you have a lot of debris on the forest floor, those ladder fuels, the reason they call them ladder fuels is it's a ladder for the forest fire to climb up into the tree or to climb into the next tree down the stand. So if you have I'll use the word, it may not be a forest term, but a dirty forest floor, which is it's just choked with debris, rotted, dying timber, and it's really dry, and then you have a path for the fire to spread through the forest. And sometimes in some of the burns, I've seen it a lot in the sister area, where they'll do a treatment, is what they call it. And you go in there, and what they're doing is they rake up all of the debris on the forest floor, put them into slash piles, and burn it. It's kind of smoky when they do it, but the reason they're doing it is to take away those ladder fuels, so if they do have a fire, it won't spread. And usually they call those types of forests treated. And essentially what that means is they're going through and cleaning it up so the fire doesn't have a path to spread on down the road.
In addition to what's on the ground, they'll take out some of the intermediate or mid sized trees that don't go clear up into the canopy with the bigger trees, and that's what provides the ladder that gets from the fire. Typically starts on the ground, and then it'll move up through dead branches and dead smaller trees into the canopy, and that's where the big, when you hear the word catastrophic fire, it's a fire that got up into the canopy under the right kind of conditions, and it just goes across the landscape, burning the canopy, and that's what kills the bulk of the older trees when it gets into the canopy.
Can also destroy homes and kill people too. I remember covering a fire in the Bend area, and we were doing a coverage. We went in with the fire crew past the fire line, and this was a very choked, very dense forest. And when the weather gets really, really hot, trees get dried out, the wind starts to blow, and the fire's burning. It's amazing how fast that fire can rip through there, and you can lose people, you can lose homes, you can lose equipment. It's not a good thing. A forest fire that's been driven by the wind or is being driven by the wind, you can't stop it. And it's very, very important that we manage these forests healthy. I think it's a way to provide jobs and also to prevent the loss of life and loss of serious amounts of property. It seems like every summer we're listening to TV and news coverage of more and more of these catastrophic fires. As a forester, as you hear these, isn't it a bit frustrating for you? It's like, folks, there's a better way to do this.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's very frustrating. And the need for treating these forests and thinning them, and particularly on the dry side of the Cascades, where the biggest fires are typically occur, is just
the eastern side of the
eastern side, right? It's just obvious to me as a forester what needs to be done, and some of it is getting done for sure, but it's at much too small of a scale. I mean, they're able to accomplish some things on the federal forest over in eastern Oregon and get some of that much needed thinning done to sort of fireproof these. You can't entirely fireproof the forest over there. It's just a fireplace, but it's at too small of a scale. They need to ramp that thing up probably 3 or 4 times the accomplishment they're getting done annually now. At least that needs to occur.
You're talking about more thinning.
Right.
More selective logging, where they're going in and cutting some of the trees around the bigger trees, and so there's not so much competition for the nutrients and for the sunlight.
Right. I think one of the biggest problems that the Forest Service has right now in not being able to get accomplished what they need to is that they're spending too much of their budget just fighting fires, and so they're not getting the upfront able to get done so that they don't have to have those huge fires and spend all their money that way. It's just a chicken and egg problem they got there.
We're talking with Gary Springer of Starker Forest. This is Valley Talk, and more on the show when we continue.
Treat your family with fresh Mexican cuisine at La Roca Mexican Restaurant. Pancho's guacamole is already famous. Taco Tuesdays are popular, where you can get them for just $1. For 21 and over, try the Monday Margaritas and Taco Tuesday Coronas. Fresh and original, try La Roca today at the corner of Queen and Hill in front of Fitness Experience. Open every day from 11 to 9 except Fridays, when they close at 9:30. Reservations accepted by calling 541-928-6141. La Roca.
Big League Fun returns to OSU's Goff Stadium this week as your Corvallis Knights host the Klamath Falls Gems. Come make some noise on Friday at Cowbell Night, presented by Lynn Benton Tractor. Join us Saturday morning for our Starker Forest free baseball clinic. And don't miss out on the hilarious Superstars coming to Goff Saturday night, presented by IBEW 280. Sunday is Hope Night, presented by 107.9 FM. For advance tickets and more info, visit CorvallisNights.com.
Corvallis Nights. Affordable family fun.
Mike Rowe here. So I'm at a Ford dealer talking with customers about how taking care of your car is kind of like taking care of yourself. And I asked, which is in better shape, you or your car? I would say my car.
Probably the car, because as you get older, you start breaking down.
I wish I could say I was diligent about my body as I am with a car.
Who's in better shape, you or the Ford Edge?
I have a bad wheel, I must say, but I do take care of my car.
Get Motorcraft brake pads installed by the Ford service experts. $99.95 or less, minus up to $50 in mail-in rebates when you use the Ford service credit card. That's just $49.95. The brakes made for your vehicle. What's stopping you?
My dad always said if you take care of your car will take care of you. You got to take care of yourself.
Yes, you do.
You got to take care of your baby.
Oh, yeah.
Taxes extra. Rebate by check. Subject to credit approval. Pads or shoes on most vehicles. One axle. Exclusions apply. See participating Ford dealer for rebate details through 8/31/13.
Get free food and free ideas Friday during Customer Appreciation Day at Economy Supply Building Center. Enjoy a free barbecue between 11 and 2 and learn how to build your own deck with the help of TimberTech experts. Watch as Economy Supply rebuilds its front deck right before your eyes and get the lowest price of the year on TimberTech's Reliaboard decking. You'll pay just $1.90 a linear foot through June 22nd. For food, fun, and more, join the deck party this Friday at Economy Supply Building Center, where Highway 34 becomes Tangent Street, Lebanon.
Let's take a quick quiz. Do you have faucets that seem to always drip or won't turn off completely? Do you never seem to have enough hot water? Do your drains run slower? Do you have low water pressure? If you answered yes to any of these, then you may have leaks in your home water system. The longer you let those leaks go, the more expensive the repairs could be. Now's the time to call Servco Incorporated, your licensed bonded certified plumbing professionals. They'll get the job done right. Servco Incorporated at 1200 East Grant Street in Lebanon. Now open Saturdays. Call 541-451-5090 or go online servcoinc.net.
Get tomorrow's news tonight. John Batchelor, Sunday through Friday nights on Smart Talk 1580.
And talk once again with Gary Springer, Public Affairs Forester for Starker Forest, State Board of Forestry. Understand that there's some changes going on to the State Forest Management Plan. Can we talk about that for just a bit?
You bet. State Forest, for people who don't know, they're not a very big portion of the overall forest picture in Oregon. They represent about 3% of the forest land base, but they're pretty important in the counties where they exist for the revenue production, among other things, recreation, all sorts of things that they provide. The current forest management plan for state forests has been in existence about 11 or 12 years now, and it just isn't producing all the things that it was expected to, primarily, mostly on the economic side. It isn't providing the economic outputs that were expected. And so the Board of Forestry is currently just starting a project to take a look at state forest management and what needs to be changed in our management plan in order to provide better economic picture, as well as maintain the conservation values and recreation and so forth that's going on out there. So this will be maybe it might be like a 3 or 4 year project, but it's pretty urgent that we get it turned around.
Okay, the forest tour is starting today, continue next week. We're going to be on the bus the 26th, which is next Wednesday. You sign up with Visit Corvallis. Yep. What's their number once again, real quick? And
541-757-1544.
One more time.
541-757-1544.
Now, we're going to be on the tour taking interviews of people that go on there. If you don't want to be interviewed, that's okay. We won't video you, interview you, but it's a great opportunity. It's free of charge to find out what goes on in the forests and why. And this is every Wednesday through September, Starker Forest. Thank you, Gary, for doing what you do, and thank you, Starker Forest, for doing this. I think it's a great idea, and we need to all go out there and see what's happening. I'm Dave Adams. This is Valley Talk. You make it a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Serving the Mid-Valley for over 50 years. You're listening to News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.